Welcome to Faith Through Reason. I'm Brian Sullivan. Let's get on after it. Today we're diving into one of the oldest and most enduring deceptions in human history, the devil's trick with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. This story isn't just ancient history. It's a living lesson that continues to influence how we think about knowledge, truth, and God. We'll explore how the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil become a tool of deception, how the same kinds of tactics are used on us today, and why our attempts to use knowledge to disprove God often end up pointing directly back to Him. We'll also consider the challenges that arise when faith is separated from a central authoritative teaching, something Catholicism safeguards against in a way Protestantism often struggles with. Let us start in the beginning, when God commanded Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't a mere test of obedience for obedience sake. This tree represented something profound, the boundary between trusting God as the ultimate source of moral truth and attempting to claim that authority for ourselves. The serpent's temptation was cunning. It promised knowledge, the power to be like God, to decide for themselves what is right and wrong. In that moment, the desire for knowledge, something inherently good, became twisted into a weapon of rebellion. Here lies the first key insight. Knowledge itself is not the enemy. God gave us reason and intellect as gifts so we could understand the world, ourselves, and ultimately, Him. But the devil's trick was to offer knowledge apart from God's wisdom and authority. When Adam and Eve took the fruit, they were not just eating. They were claiming the power to define good and evil independently from God's divine will. This was pride, cloaked in the guise of enlightenment. The original deception resonates deeply with how many approach knowledge today. We live in an age that often celebrates human intellect as the highest authority, where science, philosophy, and psychology are turned into shields against belief in God. People try to use knowledge as a tool to disprove God's existence or to explain away spiritual truths. Yet, ironically, the foundations of knowledge, truth itself, moral values, reason, and meaning depend on assumptions that make no sense apart from God. Think about morality, for instance. If there is no transcendent God, then why should we believe in objective right and wrong? Without a divine lawgiver, morality collapses into subjectivity, preference, or social convention. But our human shared experience consistently tells us some things are truly just or unjust, good or evil. This universal moral intuition points towards a source beyond ourselves. Similarly, the order and intelligibility of the universe, the fine-tuning of physical laws, and complexity of life, the existence of consciousness, all suggest an intelligent designer. And our innate longing for truth and meaning hints at God's imprint on the human soul, a hunger that nothing but the infinite can satisfy. Modern intellectualism often wears the serpent's mask in subtle ways. Think of thinkers like Jordan Peterson, who deeply engage with questions of meaning, order, and transcendence, but stop short of affirming God outright. His work resonates with spiritual truths, yet avoids full surrender to divine authority. This is a modern echo of the original temptation, to flirt with divine wisdom, but resist submission to God. This kind of intellectualism can trap people into a limbo of doubt and pride. It values knowledge and insight, but leaves out the humility and faith needed for true understanding. The devil's trick is not that we lack intellect, but that we are trying to use intellect to keep God at arm's length. But faith is more than intellectual assent. Even the devil believes, as said by Stryper. Make sure to check out that song. His knowledge condemns rather than saves. Genuine faith requires trust, humility, and obedience. It is a living relationship, not just a set of arguments or ideas. Without this surrender, knowledge becomes a barrier, not a bridge to God. This is where Catholicism offers a unique and powerful response. The Catholic Church teaches that faith and reason are not enemies, but partners in a search for truth. The Catechism beautifully puts it. Faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth. This harmony means that reason can lead us to God, and faith perfects and completes our understanding. The Church's intellectual tradition, from the wisdom of St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas to modern theologians, demonstrate how knowledge rightfully ordered points us towards God rather than away. Unlike some views that set faith and intellect at odds, Catholicism embraces both rich and a coherent vision of truth. Beyond this harmony, Catholicism safeguards believers with a central, visible teaching authority, the magisterium, headed by the Pope and bishops in communion with him. This authority protects the Church's teachings from confusion and fragmentation. Now, why is this so important? Because without a clear, unified authority, interpretations of Scripture and doctrine multiply and contradict each other. This leads to division, doubt, and relativism, the very conditions the devil exploits to weaken faith. This fragmentation is a real challenge in Protestantism, where individual interpretation and conscience often reign supreme. While this can foster sincere personal faith, it can also result in countless denominations with conflicting teachings about God, salvation, and morality. Without a single teaching authority, believers can become lost in a maze of contradictory ideas, and intellectual pride grows as everyone feels entitled to interpret truth for themselves. Returning to the tree of knowledge, it's crucial to see that the fruit itself, the knowledge, was never meant to be rejected or feared. Rather, it was knowledge sought apart from God's will and authority that brought ruin. Adam and Eve's sin was not curiosity, but rebellion. Today, many raise objections to faith using knowledge, questions about suffering, miracles, or biblical authority. These questions are not inherently wrong. In fact, they are necessary. But when used as a weapon to push away from God rather than seek His truth, they become part of the same ancient deception. Consider the problem of suffering. Without God, why would innocent suffering matter at all? Yet, our very awareness of suffering and our longing for justice points to a broken world waiting for a Redeemer. Miracles defy scientific explanation, but reveal God's ongoing power and presence. Far from disproving faith, these realities invite us to deeper trust in God's wisdom. So how do we resist this age-old trick today? First, by recognizing the temptation to separate knowledge from God. Intellectual pride that claims we can be self-sufficient leads only to spiritual death. We must embrace humility, remembering that our intellects find their true fulfillment in God's truth. Second, we need to appreciate the harmony of faith and reason that Catholicism offers. Rather than seeing faith as blind, we can engage our minds fully, pursuing knowledge not to disprove God, but to discover Him more deeply, trusting in the Church's teaching authority to guide us through difficult questions. Third, we can learn from the saints in the Church's traditions, who show us how knowledge rightly ordered leads to love and surrender rather than pride. And finally, participation in the sacraments, especially the Eucharist, which nourishes and strengthens our faith, connecting us intimately to Christ, the source of all truth and wisdom. And in the end, the fruit of the tree of knowledge was never meant to separate us from God, but to deepen our understanding in Him. The devil's tricks is to twist knowledge into a weapon of pride and rebellion, but Catholicism offers the true path, a path where faith and reason walk hand in hand, where knowledge is a gift to be embraced with humility, and where a visible teaching authority preserves the unity and clarity of God's truth. When we allow God to be the source and guide of our knowledge, we move from deception into freedom, from doubt into faith, and from pride into humility. This has been Faith to Reason. Thanks for watching, and until next time, God bless.